'Cause we don't know the hour or the day. Time is such a gift, try and control your destiny. We don't know the hour or the day. Unity is strength, let's stand as one without delay. 'Cause no bad vibe, me a chant. Me no want no bad vibe, me a chant. I just peace the times all around, yeah. No bad vibe, me a chant. No bad vibe, me a chant. Say me no want no bad vibe, me a chant. I just peace the time all around, yeah. No bad vibe, me a chant.
Hello, everybody. How you guys doing out there? AVM Superhero here. Let me take my glasses off because it seems like I got a glare on the screen. But guys, as you guys know, October in the United States is AVM Awareness Month. So you know me, the AVM Superhero, I want to make sure that I bring enough information to people all over the world about this rare condition. It is very hard to find people that have this condition, but when you do find them and they have a story to tell, you want to hear from them. And today is no different. This is part 2 of our series of Death Taught Us How to Live AVM Awareness series. And I have a great person on the phone or on the internet for us today. This is my sister. I call her auntie. I don't know if she likes that or not, but she is my auntie. She's from the same island that I was born in, the island of Jamaica, and she resides in Panama now. Her name is Diane Batchelor, and she is the author of God in the Meantime. So please, guys, give, if you can at your home, give a round of applause to my friend, my special guest, my auntie. Well, technically, she's not my real auntie, but she's my auntie on here. She's an AVM Survivor, author, Diane Batchelor. Diane, how you doing, sister?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. I see you're following the Jamaican tradition. We call each other auntie and uncle all
There
the
you
time.
go. See, I don't want to be disrespectful. I don't want to be disrespectful at all. I had you on my show before, and I was so intrigued with what you was telling me about how life was and how you became an author and all the things that happened with you with your faith and actually strengthening your faith through your AVM. I was pleased to actually finally meet you in real life. I went down to Panama. I met you and I met your husband. We had a great time. You showed me around, but I was also so impressed with how you was talking about how the Panama system out there in the medical facilities helped you out with your AVM. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. But for the people that don't know who you are, can you please just tell us who you are, what happened to you, and why you're so passionate about talking about AVMs?
Okay, so as you said, I'm a Jamaican and I've lived in Panama now since 2006. So I'm kind of a Panamanian. I found myself on the morning of October 14, 2017, unable to use my right arm. I went to a hospital that I tend to go to and my kids have gone to when we needed help, which was called, still is called Hospital Nacional here. And as God would have it, there was a doctor, a neurosurgeon on call at 2 in the morning, which apparently for them was unusual. But he came and in no time, he was able to find out that what I had in my brain was a hemorrhage caused by something that I had never heard before, something called an arteriovenous malformation. What on earth? Well, that took me down a whole road of learning all sorts of things, but especially learning that in Panama, the health system is really good. The health services are really good. And what I found out through this and what caused me to write my little book is that all along, AVMs are congenital. And all along, I had this AVM. 14 and a half years of being married and waiting to have my first child. When I finally did, I had my 3 children by C-section. I wasn't happy. I thought that was so mean because I wanted to have my children young. Little did I know that having had to have 3 C-sections was what saved my life. Because when it finally ruptured after a series of really bad coughing episodes with bronchitis, my brother-in-law, who is a surgeon in Jamaica, said, "What a good thing it is that Diane did not have children naturally." He had lost not one, but 2 colleagues who, after they died in childbirth, they discovered that they had had the same rare condition that I have or had, thanks to medical services here. So I'm so excited that it opened my eyes to see that many times when we think that God is withholding things and making life hard for us, He is actually, in the meantime, doing wonders on our behalf. Hence my little book, God in the Meantime.
That is so powerful. I didn't even realize how in depth it was. You know, I try to go through some of the book. It's hard for me to read for a long period of time because my concentration is out the door. But just hearing that information that you just said, you know, makes me think about all the things that I doubted. And I was like, I don't want this, and why do I have to have it this way? And I was complaining. But you know, all the stuff was probably happening to you as well. Like, hey, I'm a woman. I want to have birth naturally, and I can't do that. Why? Then all of a sudden you find out, like, oh, I didn't know this.
That's right.
Now I know it. Life is better. So let's talk about that a little bit, because I have people on this show, and everybody that comes on this show has their own special way of doing the activism to let people know how AVMs are very rare, and you have to be very, very mindful about it. Even though it's rare, it could be happening to you. You just don't know it. Like you said, it's congenital. What made you write the book, and why was the AVM part of this actual story within the book? Can you break that down a little bit further for us?
Okay, so I turned 60 3 years after I had my AVM rupture. And before the AVM ruptured, I remember thinking to myself, there are so many things that God had done in my life that I took for granted that my children knew. And then I would be sharing with somebody else, and the kids would go, "Really? That happened? Da, da, da." And I began to think, you know what? I need to put down in writing some of these stories so that my children would know. I thought about it. I think I probably had like the first chapter down, and then life happened, and that was the end of that. But when the AVM happened, and I found myself on my hospital bed with this aha moment of what God had been doing all along, I realized that I knew exactly what I needed to say. But of course, I was learning to use my arm again. I was learning to walk again. I was learning to not fall and not drop things. So that was the last thing on my mind. But 3 years later, when by then I had recovered my ability to walk and not drop things so much, etc., and when I turned 60, someone said to me, "Why don't you write a book?" Of course, the AVM became so much a part of it, because that is what made me actually see the footprints of God in my life that I had missed. And so when I wrote the book, at first thinking it was just for my kids and my family, my close friends, and the book took off on its own, had a life of its own, I found that every time I told the story, there's no way I could tell it without talking about what this thing is that opened my eyes: an arteriovenous malformation. And as I shared, I began to realize there were so many people who had similar stories. Even though it's rare, it's only rare till it happens to you. And then you realize, oh my goodness, there's a community. And so as I got into with the community, I realized there was need to talk about this so other people would know. When I say AVM, somebody say, "AVN? What are you talking about?" So I have to take the time to explain what an arteriovenous malformation is. And so that's how unwittingly I became an advocate for AVM awareness.
Isn't that amazing? Like, we don't really think about it, but all of a sudden this is what's happening because we just open up our mouths, and it's so rare. Now a lot of people are talking about it. So I really applaud you. And I don't know if anybody else, but you are the only person that I know that has a book that is speaking about what God has done for you in your life. And somewhere or another, you slide in the AVM information inside of there as well. So even outside of our community of AVM survivors, you have people being educated on what God has done for you and this rare thing that is put in your life called an AVM, and you are explaining it to them. So you bring it to the whole entire masses. So I really appreciate that. And we have a couple of messages on our screen. We got one from Donna. She says, wow, that is a miracle. You are truly blessed. I guess she's talking about how you was upset at first, and then God has blessed you afterwards. And I believe she has another one here as well. Is there a way one can find out if they have this before it ruptures?
Okay, so I sent you a little video. Now probably would be a good time to play that video that gives a little, it's in Spanish, so I'll explain a little bit, but this is actually showing what a doctor was doing in Panama to treat an AVM. And in it, he mentions some of the symptoms that sometimes we overlook. So this is a tool for you. Get a chance to see how it's treated in Panama, and you get a chance to hear some of the symptoms.
Malformación arteriovenosa cerebral. Les comparto este caso de un paciente que tratamos por una malformación vascular que condicionaba dolores de cabeza, alteraciones del lenguaje, hipertensión intracraneal. Fue necesario realizar por técnica de cateterismo endovascular la inyección de un líquido embolizante en el nido de la malformación con la finalidad de sellar la misma y disminuir la hipertensión venosa y la hipertensión intracraneal. Actualmente el paciente se mantiene en recuperación, le deseamos una pronta mejoría.
Okay, so what you saw there was an actual surgery, well, a procedure that the same thing that was done in my head, as a matter of fact. And a doctor was explaining, you could find yourself with headaches, terrible headaches that you were not able to figure out the cause of. You find yourself with, he talks about pressure in your head, like hypertension in your head. He talks about sometimes your speech gets a little blurry. In some cases, there are people who mention that all of a sudden they lose feeling in a particular part of their body, their limbs in particular. Some people talk about having pins and needles and sensations that come and go. Those are some of the things that can make you know that you have, or you should check yourself out for an AVM. The truth is, in my case, I had none of those. But when it did rupture, and my doctor, that's why I thank God for the medical services here in Panama, because I find myself in a group of people who sometimes are so frustrated by telling their doctors the symptoms that they're having, and they never think that it could possibly be an AVM. They check them for all sorts of other things, but never an AVM. And when I was lucid, I had no headache, I had nothing. And this doctor was saying to me, I'm going to do a CT scan, I'm going to check your brain. And I'm thinking, there's no need. It must be a pinched nerve or something like that. And he insisted, because he had worked in that field enough to be able to sense that it could be that, even when I wasn't having the regular symptoms. So it's good to be in a place and to be with medical practitioners who are familiar with this thing called an arteriovenous malformation.
You saying something very interesting, and Donna, I hope you understand where she's coming from here. The most important thing that she is saying to us, Diane, saying to us, that you need to be around a professional medical person that understands that something could be going on within your brain instead of just passing it off. They say, okay, it's a pinched nerve or anything like that. For me, what happened with me, with my situation, I used to have seizures when I was a child. And my medical doctor back in the late 70s, early 80s, passed it off and said, well, he's a strapping young man. He's good. We shouldn't go examine his brain. And that was the wrong diagnosis. They should have gone into do some CAT scans, do an MRI, and find out if anything was wrong with me. But I realized throughout my life, I used to have, and I still do, I have problems enunciating words, and also I'll write things and all of a sudden come back and look at it and be completely messed up. And I thought it was right. So there could be something that you're going through with your life and you think it's normal, and it's probably not. I knew another person that had an AVM on his spine, and he stuttered. And for the life of him, he couldn't figure out why he was constantly stuttering. And then when they found out that he had an AVM on the part that actually helps with his vocal cords, that's the reason why he was stuttering. So there could be issues that you have within your life that you really need to figure out. And a lot of times people don't look inside the brain. That's it's like outer space. They don't want to deal with the brain at all because it's so much money involved with it for testing and things of that nature. But if you feel like something is wrong, demand those tests.
That's right.
Before we go any further, for people that's on Instagram, we cannot see your Instagram messages and comments. So please go to our YouTube channel. That is AVM Superhero. Go to there and go to that live there, and you'll be able to put your comments on there. Or if you're on Facebook, you can find us on Facebook as well. But on Instagram, you can see it on Instagram, but I can't see your comments. So please go over there and put your comments in, just like Donna is doing right now. And I hope that you guys can ask the questions and be very educated by what Diane has to say tonight. So Diane, God, in the meantime, this book, I asked you earlier, you wrote the book, and I had to ask you a question. Are you a writer, or are you just a person that just wrote a book? And I guess I threw you for a loop when I asked you that the first time. But
you did.
I did. I'm sorry, but the way that you write is so authentic. It's so beautiful, and it captivates the mind. Can you tell us where we can find your book anywhere in the world, so people out there can actually read what we're talking about and how you just eloquently told your story about how God was trying to teach you things and you thought he was being mean?
Okay, so here's a copy of the book. There you go. It actually is available on Amazon. It is available on Barnes & Noble, basically wherever books are sold online, you can actually order the book. You can also find the book physically if you order through Amazon or any of those, you can get a physical copy. But you can actually walk into Source of Light bookstore in Jamaica, and you can get a physical copy of the book. If you're in Panama, the book is also physically available in Greenhouse Coffee, Panama, which is in the Parque Metropolitano, which is a metropolitan park. And also, because I live in Panama, you can get the books from me by writing to me through my Instagram, which you're going to see later flashed up, which is Diane Batchelor author, Diane Batchelor _author on Instagram, and I can hook up with you so you can get a copy of the book. I also now have the book. The book is available as an audiobook now, and wherever audiobooks are sold, my book is available if you search for it. Spotify is where the book is also available, for places where if you have Spotify Premium, you can easily get my book. It's on Audible, it's on all the major audiobook sites, as well as ebook sites. The book is available as an ebook on Amazon. So there are many options to getting the book.
And this book it's amazing. It's not a AVM book or stroke survivor book. It's not a religious book. It is a book about a person finding themselves and becoming true with themselves. And the way that she puts it, it's beautiful. She talks about how she has her children, how she met her husband, how she went to Yui in Jamaica, and all this stuff. She talks about her life. She's very vulnerable in this, and I was so impressed that a lot of people that have AVMs, have strokes, have near-death experience, are kind of timid of actually sharing their life. She gives it all, and don't hold back anything. And it's a book for a person that is actually lost within themselves and they want to find who they are instead of complaining about things that's happening to them and start realizing that it's happening for a purpose. This is the book for you. So if you really want to interested in looking into it, we have a website. It's called God in the Meantime, www.godinthemeantime.com. And also you can find her on Instagram, Diane Batchelor _ author. So please check her out and also tell them the AVM Superhero sent you.
I want to also say, you mentioned
Oh, we got some comments. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. We got some
Oh,
comments. But let's go with your thought, and then we can bring the comments in. Go ahead.
no, I just wanted to say that before I wrote my book, I discovered that there is somebody who has written a book, that I had seen her speak on video and didn't realize that what she'd been talking about was an AVM, because of course, until you have it, you don't notice what people refer to. They just say this thing and you just pass it. But Catherine Wolfe wrote a book called Hope Heals. And that book I found was very helpful to me as I was going through my healing journey with my AVM. So that's another AVM survivor book. I've since that time found in our AVM awareness group at least 2 or 3 other people who I know. I think you had Minda on your thing. She also wrote a book talking about her AVM experience. So yes,
I'm sorry, Minda.
Yeah, I'm not the only one. I'm
sorry. I'm sorry. And Maddie did too. Oh my goodness. It's just coming to me now. There's a lot of people. I'm so sorry. See, I'm glad you put me in my place. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. And the other thing I want to say is, even though I found it a little distressing in a sense, because although people don't believe it, I'm a closet introvert. And so to be open and to share as much as I did was a little unnerving for me. But I honestly believe that we help people by being honest. We help people by being vulnerable, by telling them what really happened. And so I was happy to be able to share my life. And I'm thankful when I hear you say that it is blessing people, because I believe we get experiences so we can help other people through theirs.
I'm glad you said that, because I don't think people understand that part of it, about how giving yourself, how to be becoming vulnerable and becoming transparent actually helps you with your recovery. How did you find that out? I know I'm probably giving away some of the book, but how did you find that out? And how was that doing that helped you with your recovery?
So I found a group online because, of course, I'd never heard about this. Really, entering this world puts you in with all sorts of terminologies and medical practitioners and all the kind of things that it's like you've entered a different planet. And so to find a group online of people who could understand the whole thing, could share their experiences, could explain, procedures, give recommendations as to who to go to, etc. All of that was so helpful for me. And so I found that with that, that helped me to open up myself to sharing what was happening with me, because other people were sharing what was happening with them. And so we were helping each other. And that community is a lifeline. You also know of, that was the AVM awareness group on Facebook, but there's also the TAAF, which is the the Aneurysm and AVM Foundation, or AVM and Aneurysm Foundation.
You said it right the
They
first time.
they
You said it right.
also have been extremely helpful in just helping us to navigate this totally new world that we've stepped into. And so when I get an opportunity to help somebody else, I'm happy to do it.
Diane, it's amazing because, like I said, I met you in Panama. I came out there for my birthday, and I came out there and I met your husband. I had my lady friend with me, and I don't know if you felt it or not, but it's like when we get together as stroke survivors, AVM survivors, everybody else is just goes in the background, and we just have conversations like we know each other for years.
Exactly.
And when you're saying that, when you say, you found your groups in social media, you found Tab, you found Facebook groups, and that helped you out with your recovery. It was so refreshing to see you. Like, I'm on vacation, I'm having a good time with my lady, and all of a sudden I meet someone that knows exactly what I've been through. Like you said to me, you saw me coming down the steps, you said, "Oh, yep, that's him. I know that's him because the way he's walking down the steps, because that's how I walk." But nobody else would notice that.
That's right.
And just being comforted by knowing that someone knows what you're going through is a breath of fresh air. So yeah, I do agree with you on that.
But let me tell you, when you said, you asked me a question, and it's the first time that I realized that I had not met face to face another AVM survivor. When you asked me, you said, "So do you know any other?" And I realized I talked to a lot of people online, but this was the first flesh and blood person that I was looking at who had my same condition. And you're right. We just talked and we shared, and my husband sat there and your lady friend sat there, and we were just like, yeah. Because finally somebody else right there.
Yeah, but it's bad because I feel bad for people that's around us, but it's so comforting, and the people, and it's weird because the people that's around us, they look and they're like, "Wow, I didn't see the side of you before. Like you're home," and I appreciate it, and it's like it's welcoming for them because they've been through the down, dark, dirty days of what we've been through. And then to see us smiling, to see us being accepted, is feel a sense of community. It's, oh my goodness, it's like utopia. So that's what I'm glad that you did bring this up, Diane. You talked about being transparent, being vulnerable. That's helping you out with your recovery. And I think a lot of people that's out there, some people have not done, especially the newer people. They haven't done it because they feel ashamed. They feel like this is something that they've been cursed. It's like they're saying, like with your title of your book, "God, why me? Why are you being mean to me?" But it's not being mean. I'm showing you something different that you're not used to. So once they come into that realization that this is not necessarily a bad thing, even though it happened is bad, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Something better is about to happen for you. So let's talk about that, Diane. Once you found that out, that this is not necessarily a bad thing, this is a good thing because I can go and help out other people the way that I really want to. Can you give us any information or any inspiration for other people that's out there that don't know what to do? They're just so down in the dumps because this happened to them. What is the silver lining outside of your actual stroke or the AVM rupture itself?
Okay. Well, I began to learn this, I'll tell you, in my marriage, first of all. I realized I was the happiest when I wasn't worrying about myself. When I was looking at how I could make my husband happy, then I wouldn't even notice that he wasn't making me happy. And it began to form a thing in my life where I realized that when my focus was not on me, when my focus was on somebody else, that's where it was. And so I find that being able to help other people, being able to be vulnerable. When I got into the group, I discovered some people entered the group and they left because they didn't realize it was a public group. They thought it was just a private group, and so they could talk and nobody else would see it. And I remember one of the administrators of the group said, "This is a public group. We share what is happening with us so that other people whether they themselves have AVMs or they know people with AVMs or they just want to know about AVMs, can be educated on this and become aware. And I find that, there's a scripture, I'm a Christian, as you know, and there's a scripture that says, all things work together for good to them that love the Lord and are called according to his purposes. And I used to think, the things that work together for good are for good for me. If something bad happens and it turns around, it's for good for me. And I began to learn, and this AVM has helped me to learn that as well, that the good is not just for me. The good is for a long line of other people who need the hope that I can give, having passed through my situation, or just the comfort that I can give to say, I am going through this. I know how it feels. Let's hold hands together and let's go through it together.
That's why I call you my auntie. It's so beautiful for you to actually say this, because I've been saying this for years. But when you have someone that is wiser, more intelligent, I want to say older, because I'm not gonna put you in that category.
But I am.
Okay. If you accepted that, I'll go with it. But hearing that from someone that understands, that's been through life, to understand that all this stuff is vanity if you're not taking care of yourself and believe in your God and believe in your faith and have self-worth. Saying all this, what you're saying, is really comforting to me and making me understand that I am doing my job. I'm not just doing it for myself, and I'm doing it for other people so they can actually get out of their rut, or they can glorify their God. Whatever it is that I have a mission, and because I'm giving up myself to this mission, it's going to be worth it for somebody else. So I really appreciate that. So Diane,
was there a question that we missed? I think
we didn't have questions. We had comments. We had a lot of comments.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had this one comment that says, thank you for the explanation. So this is Donna again. She was thanking us for the explanation, and she wanted to know how she get a copy of the book. We already explained that part already. I wanted to make sure that she got on the screen. So thank you for reminding me of that. So I went to Panama, and I was very impressed at how Panama looked. And when I saw the hospitals out there, I was very impressed. So when you was talking about what happened to you, and you were saying you have to be in a place that has people that are educated enough to know what an AVM is. I'm surprised that Panama was that advanced in their medical facilities and training and things like that. Even having that particular video that you have, I was very impressed by it. So is that the norm out in Panama, that they do understand how to deal with brain injuries, or is that was just somebody just stumble onto?
Absolutely the norm. And I was shocked. Honestly, I was shocked. I am thankful that I have international health insurance. So if I have a major medical incident, I have the facility to find treatment anywhere in the world to find the best treatment. I didn't need to do that. I could stay in Panama and get excellent top-line treatment. And I discovered that, yes, the private hospitals, you're probably more than likely able to be seen quicker and to be treated in a quicker manner or stuff. But the public hospitals, my physiotherapist worked in a public hospital here, Santo Tomas, and she talked to me on a regular basis about the people that she was treating, that those people had been through a lot of traumatic brain injuries, AVMs, aneurysms, strokes, and they were all being treated with the same top level that I was being treated, and I had been treated at in my private hospital here in Panama. And when I did finally, after I had regained the ability to walk for the most part on my own, and I decided to go and see how things were, if I could improve things in the States, The doctors and the physiotherapists in the States all marveled at the quality, the high quality of treatment that I had received in Panama. And they marveled at how quickly I had reached a level of recovery in a short time, having received treatment here in Panama.
All right, so you convinced me. You convinced me. You convinced me. I want to move to Panama and get medical treatment out there. But before, I don't mean to cut you off, but we have some people out here. They want to ask you some questions.
Okay, sure.
I want to get to them before we get closed out for the show. So here's our first question. This is from Beverly. She says, "How long were you sick?"
Ooh, that's an interesting question. If you follow me on Facebook, you would see that just this week, I wrote that I had gone for a walk with my husband and I had to sit down twice in the maybe we had walked for about an hour and I had to sit twice. And it wasn't because I was so physically tired as I was so mentally tired. The stress of and Greg, you understand this, because I have to be talking to myself. Okay, be careful now to put your foot where to go. Heel toe. Watch that your hand doesn't go so and so. Don't stumble now. Oh, goodness gracious. So I know on the outside, I look amazing. This hand that I'm moving so easily has barely any feeling in it right now as I speak to you. This arm still tingles. This shoulder, I still have a lot of pain in it. So when you say, how long was I sick? Okay, I'll say I recovered walking. I recovered being able to walk. The bleed happened in October. I was able to walk fully unassisted in February. But I continued to do a lot of therapy. And even now, recently I thought to myself, I think I'm going to get a personal trainer, because one of the things I realize is that you never are able to stop physiotherapy, to stop working on recovery after you've had this kind of a thing. It's more than just exercise. It's right. Actually trying to maintain what you have regained, because right. if you don't, you could lose it. So, but in terms of not dropping the phone so much and that sort of thing, not stumbling, and I would say it took me from October to February. Yes.
Yeah, Beverly, that's a very interesting question, because I look at that and I do agree with Diane completely, but I think I'm not sure how you answer this question, because a lot of people get confused with this. A stroke, an AVM rupture is instant. So it's like one day you're fine, 1 second you're fine, and the next second, boom, everything goes to crap. But I don't know any other condition after it's been resolved that you still have residual damages from it. And this is a lifelong thing. So if you ever bought a car before and you bought it new and everything works perfectly fine and the engine is great, transmission is great, once you change that transmission or change that engine and put a different one in, the car doesn't work the same exact way as it did when it first came out the lot. That's what happened to us.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We have not manufactured parts. We don't have original parts. That's the analogy I'm bringing up. That's what it is. Yes. I think we have another comment or one more comment, and then we go to our hot seat questions, because it seemed like my producer is pushing us along. So here's the next question I have from Beverly as well. This is a question for you, and I guess for me as well. Is there a likelihood of another AVM, a repeat?
Actually, there is. There is, because AVMs can reform. I don't think we took the time to explain what an AVM is, and maybe I should tell you what it is. You saw a little bit of on the video, the diagram of it. But what it is that you have arteries, veins, and capillaries that join arteries and veins. That's what's normal. With an AVM, you have arteries and you have a like a mess of veins, like a nest, they call it literally, of veins that just run straight into the artery. The pressure of an artery is so powerful that the capillaries slow down the pressure as it goes into the veins. When you have this mess of veins, the pressure just goes straight in, and you can end up with ruptures and other things that can affect you even before it ruptures. What I understand, like in my case, praise the Lord, having done a procedure called an embolization, where they put a glue-like substance into this nest and basically like cut it off. It shrunk, because some people, you have to do that and then open surgery. Where mine is or was is so deep in the brain that I couldn't have surgery. But thankfully, the embolization closed off the whole thing, and the AVM pretty much, quote unquote, died. It's there. The residue is still in my brain, and the damage that it did is still there, but it's there. It's not there anymore. The beauty of the brain is something called neuroplasticity, and that's a good thing, and in a sense a bad thing. It's a good thing in that new connections, good connections can be formed, and some of the things that you lose, you can regain. What it also means is that these same rogue nest of veins can reform in another section. And so that can happen. We just have to trust the Lord and also be very mindful of symptoms. When I just had my AVM dealt with, embolized, I was going every 6 months to get a look at my brain. And then when they finally saw that that whole thing had been occluded is the word, and fully occluded, then I didn't have to go in again after a year. Then, so if I now start having funny headaches or dizziness or anything weird, then I go and get it checked right away. But for all intents and purposes, it's gone, and I'm trusting it won't come back.
Great answer. Great answer. You explained it better than I would have. It's nothing I could add to that, and I thank you so much for giving us that, Diane. But we're at 20 minutes to the end of the show, so at this particular time, I transformed this show into something different. It is time for our hot seat questions. So let's get to our hot seat questions. So hot seat questions, if you guys don't know what that is when at the end of the show, I hack my guests 5 questions about themselves. I just get a little soundbite from them. So I want to ask you 5 questions. Give me 30 seconds responses, and then tell me you're ready for the next question. At the end of that, I want you to close out the show. I want you to tell us who you are, what information you want to leave, from any positive, inspirational quotes that you want to leave for us. Anything. It's your show at that particular time. So let's get started with the hot seat questions. If you're ready for it, I can give it to you. Are you ready?
I am.
All right. So question number one. What do you expect from your advocacy?
I expect that the next person who feels something strange or discovers that some of the things that they have been doing could be related to an AVM, that they will go check themselves out and make sure that they don't have an episode like I did, where it actually ruptures and causes some kind of disability. I also hope that it will help those people who do know people with AVMs to understand how to better become an ally for them and to walk with them through it.
Well, see, you got me to think about that real quick, like being an ally. And I really, really appreciate you saying that, because a lot of times people will say, well, you just blame it on this. You was able to do this yesterday, and why can't you do it today? I don't think people really understand that this is your brain. Something happened to our brains. This is not an arm injury. This is not a cut on the hand. This is not even cancer. Once cancer is gone, it's gone. This right here is destroying our body because the brain controls every part of your body. So if one part of it is messed up, that's how we are for life. So sometimes it switches on and sometimes it switches off. So you have to be really patient with us. Even though we look great, like Diane said, hey, she looks great and she's looking fabulous. She has tingling sensations in her hands. Some parts of her body's not working properly, but we just great actors. Thank you for saying that. Are you ready for your next question?
Ready for my next question.
Question number 2. What is one thing you want people to know about AVMs?
It's not the end of the world. I unfortunately have seen some people who, when they have suffered from an AVM, they pretty much kind of give up and feel like their life is over, and it's not. I want people to know that treatment options are available, and do not just go to one doctor or take one person's opinion. There are lots of different options. Even here in Panama, I mentioned open the embolization. I mentioned surgery where they actually open your brain and go in. There's also another thing called stereotactic surgery, which is like they don't have to go in. It's using radiotherapy, and that pinpoints the areas. There's so many different things. Same thing for the recovery of the use of limbs that have gone dead with it. Don't feel that you cannot recover function. Even years afterwards, keep working at it because you can recover. Neuroplasticity, as I said, is a good thing. The brain can rewire itself, let's use that term, and can start things rolling again. And so even though I am learning to be at peace with the fact that there are some things that I can't do so well, I'm also still in hope. And that's one thing that I'm talking to myself about: hope over fear, hoping that things will get better.
Okay, cool. Question number 3. Where can an AVM survivor go to find some help?
I would say get online, go to the AVM Awareness group on Facebook. I think there are more than one. And then TAAF, TAAF. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram. They are they're based in the US, TAAF is, but they have a worldwide reach. And the people there are so wonderful. They will explain things to you. They will help you to come to terms with what's happening and set you up with resources to make things better for you. So if you have an AVM, go to those places, because I have seen people online tell people where to find help in Australia, in New Zealand, in the Philippines, in India, because it's such a worldwide web community of people with the same issue that they help each other to find top doctors. When I went to Johns Hopkins for a second opinion, it was because people in my group told me exactly which doctor I should go talk to there, and it was a great call. So yes, that's what I would say.
We're definitely not alone. Like my friend Luna will say all the time, we are a tribe. We're a tribe of people, and just open up your mouth and you will get your answer. Trust me. So are you ready for your 4th question? Let's go to our 4th question that we have.
Yes, sir.
What is a misconception do people have of an AVM survivor?
That you're sick and then you get well. For the most part, we do recover a lot. So I'm not going to downplay my recovery, because I'm honestly so thrilled to be able to walk on my own, to be able to sometimes even jog and run a bit without stumbling or falling. But the truth is, in many cases, people are left with some deficits. Sometimes it's cognitive, meaning that I find listening to too many people talking at the same time, whereas before I could easily do that. Now I have to be careful with that, because my brain cannot handle it. There are times when there are certain tones, certain sounds that are just too much. So there are some things that you have to give them grace. Understand that the brain is such a delicate piece of our body that when it does have a damage, it takes a lot for recovery, and recovery is never usually complete. And so we have to give people grace, allow people to rest when they need to rest, allow people, give them space if they just want to withdraw from a crowded situation or stuff like that. Just be patient and gentle with people who do have. And if you're somebody with that, be patient and gentle with yourself. I had to learn to do that, and I'm still learning to do that.
Cool. Last and final question. What did the threat of death teach you?
It taught me that I had no reason to be afraid. I did not, until that time, think that I could be facing death without fear. But the scripture talks about the peace that passes all understanding, and that's very old English. The peace that makes no sense is what a more modern version says, and it says it perfectly. Because when I lay in that hospital bed, knowing that there was blood on my brain, having my doctor say to me, whoa, you could die, knowing that even when they went in to do the embolization, that could also cause issues and I could die. I couldn't believe the peace that I had, knowing that my daughter was still in school. I have a husband that I love, friends and family, but I was totally at peace. And it made me realize that death is something that I don't have to fear. And then the other thing is that it also taught me that now that I am alive, I want to make sure that I live in a way that really pleases God and joins him in his work. That's how I put it. Because I think, we look at the world and the world is all messed up and why doesn't God fix it? But God wants to fix it through us. And so I believe that we get to join his team in helping to fix the world, to repair the world. For God so loved the world that he came down and gave his one and only son to walk in the mess with us. And so when we find ourselves in the mess, it's so we can walk with other people through it and out of it.
Diane, thank you so much for coming on to the show. You're off the hot seat, and I thank you for your questions and your answers. And this is so beautiful to talk to you. I love talking to each and every time. Like I said, it's refreshing to know that I have a person that comes from the same island I was born from, that has the same condition that I has, that understands me and is an older, wiser woman. I really appreciate you. I thank you so much. Guys, check us out. Make sure you leave your comments on here. If you want to do a replay of this, you could go to YouTube, AVM Superhero, and you can find us out on that particular channel. It's called Death Taught Us How to Live. Next week, we will have part 3 with Dominic. He'll be on here to discuss his story as well. But I'm going to leave you guys with a great person to actually close up our show. Diane Batchelor, you will close out our show. Give us everything that you need to give us so we can get our information and know more about AVMs, and also how God being mean in the meantime. Well, God in the meantime. Am I right?
God in the meantime.
God in the meantime.
We think he's being mean, but in the meantime, he's doing amazing things on our behalf. And so that's what my book is about. So I'd like to encourage you to find a copy. Find a copy of the book, God in the Meantime, where books are sold. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it in Jamaica at Source of Light Bookstore, in Panama at Greenhouse Coffee. The audiobook is on Audible. It's on Spotify, it's on other audiobook channels, Nook, all of that other thing. And I also want to say, one of the things that I cannot handle a lot is actually a lot of social media. So I pretty much stick to Facebook, where I have an account called Diane Batchelor Author, as well as Instagram, where Diane Batchelor Author. Feel free to message me on Instagram, and I will respond. And I'm happy to share with you what I've learned and I am learning. And so I just hope that through this, people will come to understand that God really loves us, and that when we think life is hard, God is actually working in the meantime on our behalf and on the behalf of those that we will serve in the future. Thank you so much, and have yourselves a lovely night.